It is 2 a.m. The city sleeps, but a primal hunger screams in the dark. You stand before the open refrigerator, illuminated by a cold, artificial glare. The guilt is crushing. You feel like a failure, a victim of your own weak willpower. Your hands tremble as they grasp greasy, calorie-dense food. You cannot stop yourself. But you are not broken. You are simply being hijacked by an ancient ghost. A ghost from a time when calories were not a late-night sin, but a desperate miracle. Welcome to the Ice Age, minus 40 degrees, where the freezing wind slices through bone. Here, there are no supermarkets, no delivery apps, only the endless white abyss. Through the blinding snow, the hunters wait, their eyes wide with the terror of starvation. A colossal shadow darkens the earth, a walking fortress of flesh and fat. The 6-ton mammoth roars against the heavens, an armored god of the tundra. Then, a deafening thud shatters the permafrost. The beast has fallen. They have done it, the ultimate prize. Yet, there is no cheering in the frozen wind. In their deep, hollow eyes, there is only a grim, hyper-focused panic. Because the true nightmare has just begun. The death clock of 60 minutes starts now. A living mammoth is a walking life insurance policy. Its 10-centimeter fat is a perfect shield. In life, this armor protected it from the freezing abyss. But in death, nature plays a cruel trick. The ultimate defense immediately becomes a frozen prison. The internal heat cannot escape, while the absolute cold invades from the outside. Within an hour, the meat will turn into a solid block of ice, harder than cold-forged steel. If that happens, the sharpest stone blades will bounce off like striking a mountain. The hunters must carve out the fat before the temperature turns it into rock. It is not just butchery, it is a frantic sprint against the god of death. The freezing hands violently tearing the thick, hairy hide, morphing into soft, trembling hands, ripping open a shiny plastic delivery bag. The modern world delivers endless calories to your doorstep, but your brain does not know the delivery man. It only knows the ticking clock of the tundra. Eat it now, eat it all, before the storm takes it away. The ancient algorithm commands. And so, you devour the grease, trapped in a panic that belongs to another millennium. But slicing meat in a frozen wasteland hides an invisible enemy. A dull blade does not cut smoothly. It violently tears the muscle fibers apart. These jagged, torn edges are the open doors of death. They invite moisture, rot, and billions of hungry bacteria. If the meat rots before it dries, the entire tribe will not see the next spring. The ancestors did not know microbiology, but they understood the brutal law of blood. A chipped stone blade must be thrown away instantly, like a surgeon discarding a contaminated scalpel. Morphing into a modern, sterile scalpel, dropped into a steel tray, speed and surgical cleanliness are the only keys to survival. Dozens of fresh stone flakes are struck from the core, right next to the carcass, a primitive factory of disposable razor blades. Forged in the snow, hundreds of broken, blood-stained blades litter the white permafrost, a graveyard of weapons sacrificed to keep the rot away. Contrast this with the pristine, plastic-wrapped tools of modern hygiene. We fear germs today, but they fought a microscopic war with nothing but shattered rocks. The butchery is finished, but the massive chunks of white fat are frozen solid. The human stomach cannot digest a mountain of solid, freezing grease. It must be liquefied. It must be boiled, morphing into a microwave plate, spinning, heating up modern synthetic food. But how do you boil water thousands of years before the invention of the metal pot? The answer is the first alchemy of mankind, the 500-degree stone. A thick animal stomach is filled with snow and heavy chunks of frozen fat. With wooden tongs, a glowing red stone is pulled from the roaring campfire and dropped directly into the fragile skin bag. The water violently boils. The solid fat melts into liquid gold. Why doesn't the 500-degree stone burn through the thin skin? Because the water absorbs the heat, protecting the flesh from the fire. A sip of this liquid fat is a massive calorie bomb, saving the tribe from freezing. And when lit with dry moss, it becomes a lamp, pushing back the eternal night. Your modern deep fryer is just a ghost of this ancient, desperate magic. A modern electric smoker vents perfectly controlled smoke, morphing into a colossal structure of mammoth skulls, billowing thick, dark smoke into the blizzard. The Ice Age was not always frozen. Brief summer thaws threatened to rot the mountain of meat. The only way to save it was to smoke it. But there is an impossible paradox. To build a fire, you need wood. But the tundra is a barren, treeless void. A journey to find forests would take weeks. The meat would turn to maggots by then. In pure despair, they found a genius, horrific solution. They realized the bones of their prey could burn. Deep inside the hard shell, the marrow holds a hidden well of fat. When thrown into the embers, the bone does not blaze. It smolders slowly, producing a thick, cool, endless smoke. They did not just build tents, they engineered colossal bone factories, stacking massive jaws and tusks into airtight domes, burning the beast's own skeleton to preserve its flesh. The ultimate macabre smokehouse, forged entirely from death. You open your modern refrigerator, neat rows of plastic containers preserve your leftovers, morphing into a dark corner of a prehistoric cave, where intact deer bones are stacked like firewood. When excavating these ancient sites, a terrifying mystery emerged. Everywhere else, bones were violently smashed into tiny fragments to suck out the marrow. Yet, in the deepest shadows, the longest, richest leg bones were left completely untouched. Why ignore the most calorie-dense food while your tribe is starving to death? It was not madness. It was the birth of financial survival planning. A long leg bone is capped by thick cartilage at both ends. It forms a flawless, airtight vacuum chamber, perfectly sealing the fatty marrow inside. Locked away from oxygen, the fat cannot oxidize. The bacteria cannot enter. 9 weeks pass. The blizzard buries the world. The hunts fail. In the absolute darkest hour of winter, they return to their hidden vault. A heavy stone smashes the ancient seal open, and inside, the marrow is perfectly preserved, rich and life-saving, nature's first canned food, defying rot without a single drop of electricity. You force yourself to eat dry, plain chicken breast, the ultimate modern diet, swallowing pure protein, avoiding fat like a deadly poison, morphing into a roasted wild rabbit on a flat stone, the exact same lean protein. But in the wilderness, this lean meat is not a diet. It is a death sentence. Historical explorers starved to death, with their stomachs completely full of meat. The phenomenon is called rabbit starvation, or protein poisoning. Without fat or carbohydrates, the human liver cannot process raw protein. It breaks down your own body, producing highly toxic ammonia. The more lean meat you consume, the faster you destroy your internal organs. Our ancestors learned this brutal truth through the bodies of their dead. That is why they worshipped fat. It was not just food, it was the only antidote. Every bite of lean muscle had to be coated in a thick layer of animal grease, morphing into a thick stick of butter, melting over a modern pan. You look at the grease with terror, brainwashed by modern culture. But your primal DNA remembers, fat is the shield against the rabbit's curse. Every morning, you swallow a pristine, shiny vitamin pill, morphing into a handful of disgusting, half-digested green sludge, pulled directly from the bloody stomach of a dead reindeer. We imagine our ancestors as pure carnivores, bloodthirsty hunters. But fossilized dental plaque reveals a different truth. They cooked plants in roots, yet eating wild greens creates a biological bottleneck. Essential vitamins like A and K are fat-soluble. They need grease to enter the blood. Without a fat vehicle, chewing weeds is completely useless. And in the dead of winter, when the snow buries all vegetation, scurvy brings death. To survive, they became brutal survival nutritionists. They sliced open the prey's stomach and harvested the chyme. The moss and weeds were pre-chewed, bathed in acid, and mixed with visceral fat, the perfect pre-digested vitamin soup, saving the tribe from rotting gums. Disgusting to our modern, sanitized eyes, but it was absolute genius. A stolen meal that built mankind. Hunting a mammoth brings glory, but it is a massive, deadly gamble. If the hunt fails, the entire tribe will slowly starve in the snow. They needed a backup plan, a biological insurance policy, morphing into an endless supermarket aisle, flooded with artificial light. You push your cart aimlessly, surrounded by absolute abundance. Your brain loves the supermarket because it mimics the greatest natural jackpot. The bright shelves dissolve into a wild river bursting with life. The great salmon migration, millions of fish turning the water red. Unlike a mammoth, a fish does not fight back. It does not crush you, and shellfish do not run away. They wait patiently in the shallow rocks. Pregnant women, the elderly, and children can gather them without risking death. It is a low-risk, high-reward strategy built on predictable seasonal cycles. They did not just throw spears. They engineered complex traps, weaving massive nets from vines to catch the red tide of life. A calculated investment, trading the glory of the hunt for the certainty of tomorrow. 10,000 years have passed. The great ice sheets have melted into concrete. The mammoth bone huts are now glass skyscrapers, piercing the night sky. The glowing stones of the fire pit, replaced by the sterile hum of the microwave. But deep inside yourselves, the ancient algorithm has never been updated. You sit on your kitchen floor, surrounded by fast food wrappers, crying in shame, morphing into the prehistoric hunter, sitting on the dirt floor of a dark cave, holding a crude bowl of hot bone marrow soup, crying tears of absolute gratitude, the exact same physical reaction. Separated by 100 centuries, you are not broken. You are not weak. You are the genetic survivor of the most brutal winter in Earth's history. Every midnight binge is just your ancestor trying to keep you alive. But the storm is over. The mammoth is gone. You look at the grease in your hands, and finally, you let it go. As the food falls, the terrifying shadow of the hunter fades from your wall. The kitchen is quiet, the ghost is asleep, and you are finally awake.